Welcome guys to another episode of the Rize. Now today's going to be a chilled one. We're in Spain. I've got a posterior training session. So I'm going to be running through what I'm doing in today's session, but also a little bit about peaking abroad, traveling to shows abroad, and also a little bit about that transition from being a lifestyle coach to a prep coach and things that you need to learn along the way to basically perfect your craft. So we're going to get stuck into pool and we'll catch up with some little clips in between. So one thing I think is really important about becoming a prep coach as you transition from lifestyle coaching is understanding the process that a client's going to go through. So when they're checking in and the visuals are changing, you can correlate what you're seeing in the visuals to what's happening then from an understanding standpoint. So you need to know what's going to happen to a muscle as it goes through that process of depletion. You need to understand about like the sodium to water balance. So when these changes are happening in real time and you can see the physique evolving through the course of a prep, you're able to understand what's going on to be able to then correct or change that. If you're just seeing the physique change and you're not quite understanding why that's happening, it's almost like guessing. Yeah, you can try certain things and gain that feedback, but if you understand the base of the process and the physiology behind what's happening, then when these visual changes are happening, then you can understand why and then plan your next moves. And everybody's different. So if you understand the base of how the human body functions, then as you're getting different people check in at different courses throughout that prep, you're really going to be able to understand the process. So advice I'd give to any coach is make sure you understand the process before you start prepping people. Yes, you need the experience, and you need the experience, but what I'm trying to get at is as you get busier and your time gets shorter and shorter, you're not then going to be able to take the time out to then educate yourself, as you are going to be busy with check-ins and working with these clients during the prep. So understanding the prep process and what the body does in the extremes of dieting and the extremes of off-season is the first key stage to kind of really making that transition happen. So you can correlate what you're seeing and what that client's going through physically with the process that you've learned. So that's the first piece of advice I give anybody. Oh yeah, feel good today. The second point that's quite closely linked to that, guys, is then having the experience. You need a good balance of understanding the process you're going to take the clients through and then having the actual real-time experience to then watch these changes happen, because if you know everything but then can't experience or put it in practice, it becomes pretty useless. So you need to make sure that you're taking on as many clients and taking them through diet process to see how this unfolds and really learning that skill set through knowing the process but also experiencing it in real time, not real hand. So that's the second point, and I think whilst we're on the subject of kind of understanding the process, this links quite nicely into part of the video of training and prepping abroad, is that you need to understand if there's going to be a climate change, there's going to then be a shift in kind of like sodium and fluid. So obviously if you're in a hotter place, you're going to sweat more, you're going to excrete more sodium. So understanding that then when you're away, you need to compensate for that to make sure that you're kind of on a level basis. So let's say for argument's sake, at home you have 4 litres of water, 4 grams of salt. You then go away, you may want to make that 5 litres of water and 5 grams of salt. Obviously all little things like that level, that client's level of muscle mass are going to kind of play a role in that, but just as a general rule, understanding small things like that are crucial when you kind of travel and go away for shows, just so you understand these smaller variables which will come into play if you are peaking and you are going to be manipulating water and things. So a couple of little points there. You know what I've got to do today as well? Because I haven't got my logbook, I have to put more on because I can't go with the same weight because I don't know the reps. So I'm like, to know I've got to go up in weight. Another point that's come to me, prep coaching is very niche. Like, it's such a small section of coaching, even though it's becoming more popular, doing prep coaching right is very niche. And I think to really nail this, you need to have a passion for bodybuilding. You need to almost be obsessed with physiques and seeing how everybody's body responds, like watching that process unfold through off seasons and preps. You do really need to have a passion for it to be able to constantly be excelling, because the body's so complex, and when you're taking the body to the extremes, you need to have a passion to be constantly learning about that. So that's something I think is quite important and not often spoke about, is that if you want to be a very good prep coach, you've got to be passionate for the game. You will easily be out-competed by people that do love the game if you're just in it for the cool side of it, of getting people shredded and putting people on stage. To do it right and to do it well, anybody that's at the top of the game has a genuine passion for it. So one last point before I get stuck into this set. Going through the process yourself, you've got to do it. To be a prep coach, not even to understand the process of what you're going through, but to emotionally feel that process, is something you've got to do to be able to resonate with your clients. You need to know how they're feeling at the start of the prep. They need to know how they're feeling during it. And more importantly, they need to know they're working with someone who understands them final few weeks, the nerves building up to a show, the unknown as well. Like, you want someone that you can resonate with that's been through that process. So if you're looking at prep coaching, before you start taking clients on and putting them on stage, go through that process yourself. You will not regret it, and it will be something that the experience that you gain from it will stay with you forever, and you can then lead that into your clients and then live that experience through them if you no longer want to compete. So as a must, you must go through that process yourself to be able to understand it, but also emotionally, physically relate to them throughout that whole prep. So something I learned the hard way early on when prepping people, guys, was not everyone needs the same approach when it comes to like mentality of competing, because some people do very well under pressure. Other people need to have a more relaxed mindset through that full prep. So I think as much as we think as coaches we understand our clients, really getting to know your client and why they're competing can really help you get more out of them when it comes to that prep process, in understanding, do they need pressure to be able to make themselves perform better as an athlete, or do they work better if they're on their own, they're isolated during that prep, and they then don't have that external pressure. And this is something that can honestly be the make or break of a prep, because you could take two people through the same process, apply the same amount of pressure, one person will get through it and smash it, the other one will cave under the pressure and won't be able to. And that's not to say that person's not ready for that prep, but how you coach them through that process and apply your coaching strategies from a mindset standpoint is so crucial for, one, the enjoyment of the prep, and second, then be able to get through it and complete the prep as well. Couple of things to think about, guys, if you're either planning shows abroad or going with your coach abroad to do shows, is really scoping out everything. And I'm going to say this with confidence, I do not think you can overplan. I think prepare for every scenario. You need to know a couple of gyms to go to. You need to know the code for your lockbox to your B&B before you get there. Especially being that close to your show, you don't want any stress. So you need to make sure you really plan in advance to make sure everything from the smallest things that seem insignificant, you're prepped and planned in advance, so that, again, there's just no stress. Because I've had it even with shows in the UK where you think you're prepared, but you won't be able to get into the Airbnb, or the shops will be closed, you can't get the food the next day. Really being so anal about your preparation for abroad shows is absolutely key to success, and naturally this comes the more that you do it. But if you can lean on people or even rely on your coach to sort these things out, it's going to be really crucial to make sure your stress is low, as likelihood is if you're flying, your body's going to be under stress anyway. So you don't want to be adding that additional stress by not being planned, not being prepared. And this doesn't mean leave it to a week out. Do this 4, 6, 8 weeks out. Make sure everything's planned from your luggage to what you need to take. Be as absolutely prepared as possible to minimize any stress on your physique. So one thing that's helped me personally as a prep coach, guys, and you would have seen this through following me, is that I'm at every single show. And this is for a few reasons. This isn't just based on what I'm going to explain now, but for the purpose of this video, being at shows and watching a physique change through the course of 24, 48, 72 hours is a really cool process to learn from, because as I mentioned at the start, you can know everything, but until you've seen it, it's completely different. And this is something that, if you scroll all the way back through the YouTube, you'll see from the first ever show I went to with Paige, we was there 4 or 5 days before the show doing check-ins after every meal. Did I have to? No. Did I want to? Yes. Because the things that you learn through that experience, you cannot learn through a textbook. And just being there at the shows and watching the body evolve through that process and learning from your mistakes as well is so crucial as a coach. So the more on-hand, in-person experience you can get, the more successful you're going to be, because the more you're going to relate what you know to what you see. Something else I just thought of, talking about being at shows with clients and watching everything unfold, is one thing I did before I even had clients in shows was go to shows, was watching how it ran, watching the people that done well, watching the people that didn't do well, and not from a judgment standpoint, more so from a learning standpoint. Why was that person fuller than that person? Why did that person come second and not first? Understanding the game that you're playing is going to help you then play it easier. So one piece of advice I would give anybody that wants to be a prep coach is go to shows, talk to people, watch the competitors, watch all the classes, not just PCA shows, any shows. The more you can see with your eyes, the more you can then apply. So that experience that you have from just going to shows and being there in person beats seeing it online any day. So some things that we were just discussing back and forth, guys, especially when you come away for shows, is food sources aren't all equal. So white rice in the UK is going to be very different to white rice in Spain. You need to check the ingredients and make sure what you're consuming is almost identical to what you're having at home, because even though it may seem the same, the ingredients and additives are so different. So it goes for food, but it also goes for water. If you can't drink tap water, you're then going to have to get shot bought water, and some shot bought water is going to have different ratios of like potassium, different electrolytes. So if you're consuming one more fluid than you are normally and the balance of electrolytes is off, all these little things that seem non-important are going to be really important. So just some things to keep in mind if you are traveling for shows. Pay attention to the small details. So as a summary for the video, guys, I've got a few little points here regards to some things that we didn't mention in the video which can help you when you're traveling for shows. Now, disclaimer, this is for educational purposes only. Supplements, when you're taking them away, check the country you're going to and make sure it's legal. If it's legal to own, you're fine. If it's illegal to own, then do not take it. It is not worth the hassle. See if you can have contacts out there to source anything you need, but checking this before is essential because 9 times out of 10 you can get away with taking supplements away, depending on the country you go into, which typically for most regionals, pro qualifiers, you are okay. But places like Dubai, no go. Next one is going to be, if you're staying away from the airport, make sure you book a taxi. Yes, you may want to save costs on taxis by going for Ubers, but if you get there and you can't get hold of anything, you're then on your feet for longer. You've then got bags, stress of not knowing when you're going to be getting there, meal timings, etc. Book a taxi. For what it costs difference-wise to what it saves you in stress, just make sure you plan in advance and get that booked to be picked up from the airport to your location. When you're actually traveling, know your body before you travel. Depending on if it's a short haul or long haul flight, if your body holds water, make sure you're planning this in advance with your coach. Something I do with certain athletes is I will make sure we do protein and fat only on the days we fly, just so there's not going to be any excess water coming from carbohydrates when you are traveling. So again, planning and thinking of all these small details can really complement the end look if you're ahead of the game and know about them beforehand. Final statements on prep coaching, and again, as I said at the start, transitioning from lifestyle to prep coaching, is make sure you talk to people at shows. The amount of clients that, the amount of people that weren't clients that I've spoke to at shows and watched them compete, and then they've jumped on a call with me and I already know what their feedback was before they've even gotten a call. And 9 times out of 10, that attention that you give them just from watching them at the show and talking to them is often more than they're getting from their coach anyway. So little things like that go a long way for people at shows and the people that are competing. So if you are invested and do love the game, make sure you're paying attention to these things and investing yourself in the whole show as a general when you go and the people that are competing, because you never know where you may end up and what people may come from that. Last but not least, experience and time is going to be what pays you. Do not worry if you're not getting elite level clients come through the door. Do not stress if you've had one client compete in one season. It's all about building and stacking on your reputation, your results, and ultimately time's going to be the biggest factor in bringing all that together. So give yourself time, learn, be passionate about the game, and ultimately you're going to do incredibly well. Thanks for watching, guys, and catch you on the next Rise.